thrilled you're all back together. And you mentioned, working with Nasri, Red One, all these great producers, and you mentioned Lady Gaga. How did this environment come about where you were being, so generous with bringing other people in, being inspired by them, allowing them to creatively work with you? Was that just organic, or did you actively go out and search for those people?
I think it just started to come together. Word started to get around that the New Kids were back. Like you had said, it was a bubble. The bubble started expanding, and producers started to reach out. So Red One was someone who reached out, and had really only done a lot of hip hop records at that point, but he could play like 10 instruments. He's a genius musician. And that sort of opened another creative door. And it started where I think Nasri and I started working with Red One, and then Red One and I really developed a really close bond, and it kind of became him and I. And I think starting working with Nasri gave me confidence as a songwriter again, that eventually he started to do other things, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep going with Red One here and keep writing. And Red One, I think one night, and producers came from other places. Joey had a friend named E-Man, who most of you guys know of. And he was like, can you go write with E-Man tomorrow? And I was like, yep, I'll go. And he was like, give him a chance, he's great. And I went and did a session with him, which is where 2 in the Morning came from. We wrote that song with him and Casey Livingston. And the next day or a week later, we had to record it. And so we had to do 2 sessions at one time in the same building. So we were recording 2 in the Morning in one room with E-Man, and down the hall we were writing Big Girl Now with Red One. And it was a really cool time, because we would walk down the hallway and there was Usher, who was recording in another studio, and like all these superstars were coming through, and they were all excited to see us, and we were excited to see them. And the magic just started to flow. It just started to become a thing where all these, collecting thoughts and ideas and meeting with people just started to produce all these opportunities. And from working with Red One, he would always, one of the ways he would introduce himself to us and to get us familiar with his sound was he would play Lady Gaga. And her music was phenomenal. And it was like, oh my God, this is great. And then Joey had seen her somewhere, and he was like, I saw that Lady Gaga at the Grove or something.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, man, she's a star. She's a
Oh
star.
my goodness. She came in. It was just a regular restaurant, and she had gold leggings on, like sparkly, like unbelievable, as if she was on stage, and no one knew who she was, but she was with Red One,
Yeah. And so Jordan and I were singing 2 in the Morning and writing Big Girl Now. And Jordan demoed all the Gaga parts. So more about that later. But it was an amazing demo of me and Jordan being New Kids and Gaga. But when we recorded, we wrote Big Girl Now, we thought, let's make it a duet. And we were like, we have to get a female singer to sing it. And we were like, we'll get Britney, or we'll get Christina Aguilera. Everyone's so excited, we're reunited. And Red One suggested having Gaga demo it and just do a reference vocal for whatever female artist was gonna sing it. And she sang it. And we knew. I think we were all in the studio together.
That's the imitation I would do with her. Of her.
We were in the studio, and we knew right there. We were like, we don't want any other artist on this song. We want Lady Gaga on this song. And we had already discussed her opening for us on tour, and it was something that I think Red One and I bonded over. It was like, please help her get the opening spot on your tour. And I was like, we will. And as we went on, when she sang that part on the record, she slayed it. I mean, she killed it. And it was like, doesn't matter if nobody knows her, if nobody ever knows her, this is her record. And it made it easier to bring her on tour. But one of the amazing moments that came from that is when we did those sessions with her, she asked at the end of recording Big Girl Now if I would write with her. And I was like, heck yeah. I mean, I'd heard her album, I knew she was great, but I said, we're coming tomorrow, can you come back? And she was like, yeah. And she came back. In that following session, we wrote Full Service together. And we had talked, I think all of us had talked about, we were starting to duet with people. We were starting to expand, and we were getting songs with other people, and it was like we really had sort of mentioned doing a song with New Edition. And there was no song that was right for it. There wasn't anything that was the song, but when we started writing Full Service, I was like, this could be the song. This could really be it. So while we were in the middle of writing, I called Johnny Gill, who is a dear friend, and I said, where are you? He said, I just landed at Burbank Airport. I said, can you come over? And he came over immediately, sang the demo, and that led to us and New Edition recording, I think it's safe to say, the dream song for everyone in the band, a song with our idols, New Edition.
And so, what was it like being in the studio with Gaga? I mean, we have to imagine who she was back then, but you could see it. I mean, could you tell that she was going to become like one of the biggest stars on the planet?
Well, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I remember Gaga walking in, like when we would have dance rehearsals and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who she was, but she just walked by and I'm like, I thought she was already like this huge star. But I mean, her coming on tour with us, like her work ethic was crazy. She would do shows with us, and then after the show, she'd go to like 3 nightclubs. Like she'd be out till like 2, 3 in the morning, just, you know, going. It kind of reminded like what we did back in the day. You know, you really gotta hustle. And then when her first single,
Just Dance.
Just Dance, yeah, that one. You know, when that came out, I was like, she's going places. It took a little, like, she always dressed weird and like weird things. So I was like,
she didn't have any money, you know, so she was making her own clothes, you know, so they had that vibe about it, but like she'd have like a hood on and glasses.
She was like the superhero in those
You'd just be having
movies.
coffee and she'd walk
They
in.
have like the cheap outfits on, and then they become big, and then they get the really cool outfits.
Yeah.
But like what Joe was saying, she would come into the studio, and yeah, she had an aura, for sure. When you see her now, she's always over the top. But even then, she was just a creative person. I'd be like, where'd you get that tie? Or where'd you get this? Or that hat? She goes, oh, I made it. Like, she was like into all of that fashion and the clothes all on her own. So it definitely was it's not like she met a stylist and a stylist made her. She was her. She made herself.
I still remember that vocal. You know, the vocal we hear on Big Girl now is like, you know, she just had it. You know what I mean? I still remember it, like hearing it in the studio, her recording it, and that's why I always say I hope she does more like R&B like that, because she does it all, and I know she can do the opera and everything, but like, I mean, for someone who's like so in the zone, mostly off her first album, like That Sound, I mean, it was very cool to like, you know, it was special, you know what I mean? It was
Joe,
cool.
I'm really wanting you to do the dance that she did at the recording board.
Well, because she would just, you know, and she didn't get, you know, she was just like right in, but like she would stand there, like in front of the board. That's what she would do. That's pretty much it. You know, every time, she couldn't help herself. Every she came.
That's great. So, how do you know when the album is done? How do you know like it's ready to be released to us?
When it's like being printed. We learned an interesting thing about how the music business changed. since we were kids and now making an album ourselves as adults. So thought we were getting pretty close, and the way the industry kind of worked, at least in '08, I don't know what it does now. We do new kids. You know, we're here at blockcon. We won't make a song, we put it out for you guys. It's like we have our own thing. I don't consider us part of the industry. We're in the blockhead business, and that's it. Like, this is our thing. We're for you guys. But producers, there's only so many people at that time in 2008 that could get played on the radio. And now it's probably even smaller, right? There's like 10 artists with, you know, you'd always hear a certain artist over and over again, and then there's like 10 artists maybe. And the producers, the top producers, grab their best songs and save it. And when they think that what they'll do is we would get a lot of demos from people, and it'd be like, wait, who's singing this demo? And they'd be like, oh, Pussycat Dolls, but don't worry about that. What happened was Pussycat Dolls recorded it, and then they didn't want it. And the producer's like, you take it. You know, they're trying to place their songs, right? So, but when a producer gets although we did do one of those, Lights, Camera, Action, was first recorded for the Pussycat Dolls, but it was meant for us, so that worked out great. But the top producers, they find a gem, they hold it. Right? And they sort of wait, and they wait till the album of the artist they're looking at is almost done. And at the end, right when you think you're done, it's like, all right, album's done. And they go, no, it's not. Here comes Timbaland with a song, or here comes Teddy Riley with a song, and that started happening. And the problem was the songs were great. So we were close to the finish line. And Joe and I went to a basketball game. We were going to the Celtics and Lakers championship game in 2008. Sorry. And Jimmy Iovine from Interscope Records. I had signed Marky Mark to Interscope Records in 1991 and produced their first #1 song that label ever had, Good Vibration. So Jimmy and I reconnected when we felt we had enough music to get the album going, to get an album deal. And so the Celtics won the championship, and I didn't have tickets in LA, so I called Jimmy. I said, hey, I need your Laker tickets to go to see the Celtics tonight. So Joey and I hopped in a limo with the producer, Polo the Don. And Polo was produced Usher and all these huge hit records. And he kept playing this record in the car. And like, we're close to the finish line of the album. And it's like, he played it, and he played it, and he played it, and it was a song by Neo, and we're like, but we're talking, he's not, you know, we don't know what's going on, he's just playing it, and yeah, so what have you guys been up to, and where do you want to go to eat after the game? And played it again. And I don't know how it came to be, but maybe a week it was, right, later, Joey called me and was like, hey, I just heard Jimmy Iovine wants us to do Single. And I was like, that song in the car that Polo kept playing over and over, the Neo record? He was like, yeah, I'm going to sing it now. And we went and did it, and so the album extended, and that became a process. That whole recording of that song was a process.
And to piggyback on, you know, Jimmy Iovine and Donnie's relationship with Jimmy Iovine and Jordan's relationship with Jimmy Iovine and for his solo album. But, you know, Jimmy Iovine's, you know, for those of you who don't know, he's a legend in the music business, you know, as far as, you know, I think he started like engineering Beatles records. And so, I mean, he's a legend, and that having that kind of a guy can slow things up too, right?
Yeah.
Because and Donnie's so
need the rights. Just one more song.
Yeah.
We're missing one.
Right. And I'm the kind of guy banging your head off the wall like, I'm done, we're done, let's go, you know, and you have to juggle that, and of course we did, and, you know, to your point, like Teddy Riley, all these great people, you know, those thoughts, and talk about songwriting and all this stuff, you know, seeing that and enjoying you, like, you hadn't been in the studio in, what, 15 years or something, like writing? So it was just like all that energy and all that focus was great to watch. And you know, frankly, I'm glad, because I wrote music too, but like talking about the dynamics of the group, I feel it was heaven sent that I didn't feel the need to write, you know what I mean? Because that can stop up the flow of it too, you know what I mean? But what I was focused on was singing as much shit as I could get my hands on. When you got Jordan Knight and Donnie Wahlberg and these other guys in the group, you gotta grind sometimes. So and that was one of the songs, and it was single. And I think I called. It's not like I knew, but like I was literally in the car at 10:30 at night, driving to the studio. Like I'm going now, you know. And it was the Neo song. It was single, and I went in there, and luckily Adam. I mean, that was a coup too. We had been working with Adam, Nasri's partner, so they let him record the vocals, that's the little things that are important to do, because we had a comfort level already with him, and it's like, let's go. And I went in there, and I just connected with the vocal, and we got a great vocal, and you know, these guys support me all the time. And Jordan, you don't always say much, but I do remember everything you say. You did like 2 bad things to me in my whole life, and I remind him all the time. He stole my cheeseburger once. Anyways, but you were impressed with my vocal. The next day, you're like, yo, you're like, you gave her one of those. Like, you're like, yo. And I was like, yes. So that's what I remember about that song. And then you went in and sang the chorus, and you killed the chorus, and then Jay finished it off, and so for a second, it was gonna be, we thought it just might be our record.
Right.
But the backstory, we're gonna talk about that all the while, like, Neo
Was not happy about this. He didn't know anything about this. It's okay, Jordan. We'll be here. We do need bathroom breaks sometimes, guys. Sorry. Neo. Jimmy Iovine called and said, "Hey, Neo wants his record back." We're like, didn't you talk to him about this in the first place? And he was like, well, kind of, not really. So I called Neo, and he was a gem. He was just amazing about everything. He said, you guys sound great. I love it, but I want my song. And I knew, like, I can move on from off of things quickly. You know, I'll just like, okay, if this door closes, I'm going in the next door. So I knew I could live without the song, even though it was amazing. And we, like, the next day after we recorded, we were doing a photo show. We played it for 10 hours straight. Like, we were obsessed with the song. But I was facing the reality that it might go away. So I was like, okay, well, I can maybe get over losing it, but Joey won't. So I called Neo, and we talked it out, and he was like, look, can we make it a duet? And I was like, that would be an honor for us to share it with you. He said, okay, but on my album, it's gonna be just me. So if you ever heard the version of Neo on the radio, just him, that's why. It was his, like Joey, his favorite song on the block, single. Neo's favorite song on his album was single. And that level of passion from both of these men about that song left me to try to mediate to save it for all of us. And Neo was so gracious, and we hung up the phone, and it was a done deal. He was like, I'm in, I'll do a video with you guys. Let's take it the full 9 and just go with it. And thank goodness, because it's a very special song. I think you guys would agree, it really, I don't know if you hate the girl in the video. I don't, Sonal.
I hate all the girls in all the videos.
Okay, that's it. I guess that still carries on to this day. We're learning.
I am.
We're still learning. Yeah, and after that song, there was Teddy Riley called with Grown Man. And that was just, we had worked with him on Face the Music. Teddy Riley was really one of the driving forces for us on Face the Music. Phenomenal producer, all-time iconic producer. And we jumped in and did Grown Man, and that was basically mostly him and I just knocking it out. And then we were master mixing the album. It's the final thing you do. When you do that, you send the tape or whatever it is to the plant, and they're printing CDs. It's over.